It's a sham and a total disregard of the process, and that is of announcing the results together in tandem with Form 34A. So these are the statements that he has made there. In fact, I believe that was Dennis Onyango who spoke. It sounded like his voice at the end of that press conference when he said, "We are rejecting the result." So this is an interesting thing that is coming up. And of course, when we're here with our panel a little earlier, we're talking about their tallying processes. We'll get to that in a moment, but let's take a look at this result that is now being disputed by the NASA presidential flag bearer. So take a look at the numbers as they stand now. 6,044,745 for Uhuru Kenyatta, and 4.8 million votes. That's 43.93%. Of the vote there, the votes counted. So this is where it stands right now, with Uhuru Kenyatta in the lead, Raila Odinga second. Let's take a look at the other candidates. And this is something we promised you would talk about today, if they will play any role in tipping this election one way or another. Independent candidate Joseph Nyaga with 26,000. And if you take a look at that gap between the third and the second, what, it was 4 million, 4.8? 4.8 million for Raila, and then you go all the way to 26,000. And at the bottom of this leaderboard is Dr. Japheth Kaluyi Kavinga with 8,000 votes, with just 0.07% of the vote. And Dr. Ekuru Aukot with, is that 18,935 votes. So this is where we are now. We've heard those press conferences. Oh yes, there's also Cyrus Jirongo with 7,000 votes. Michael Wainano, who's the independent candidate, at 5,969. So Raila Odinga calling these results a sham. He's calling them fictitious. He's saying they're wrong and they're fake. And it's all about the dispute over the Form 34A and, in which case, how this vote was being monitored and by the party agents. And those are some of the interesting things that are coming up. Daisy, I'd like to hear from you a reaction from what Raila Odinga had to say with respect to these results.
Well, you naturally sympathize with the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, with this happening to him a fourth time, apparently. But for me, I think I would have wanted to hear from him what their agents have to say about those votes, that even as they dispute the IEBC results, that they're disputing them against results that they have received from their agents, because they have agents in every polling station, and they have super agents. They have their presidential agents.
We heard from, one of those.
But you see,
James
for me, it's not enough to just dispute on the basis of just making an allegation.
But don't they want the IEBC to then produce their 34A forms first?
But let them also.
The burden is also on
the burden is also on them.
The parties.
Yes, of course, it's on the parties, because the reason you have agents in the polling centers is so that if a different result is announced, your agents are able to tell you this is what we signed up on, because remember that for IBC to announce the results, all the agents have to have signed
on to that.
So I imagine that by the time you have agreed, or the presiding offiter is transmitting the results
that they have been agreed to. Let's take a look.
So
there's this tweet here by at Miss Kangeda. She says, "I can attest that some party agents couldn't be bothered to sign the Form 34A nor monitor the transmission of results."
But
Alex?
you see, Daisy, I would like to disagree with you for the first time.
Oh, please. Yes, let's do that.
Yeah, I think Raila is raising some really substantive procedural issues, which I think cannot be dismissed offhand. One, we've discussed here that these results are coming from polling stations, okay? It is difficult to assign these numbers to any constituency right now. So it is difficult for Raila and his team to present any numbers because we just have global figures. Uhuru has 6 million votes. Raila has 4.8. We don't know where they're coming from.
Yeah, but
now,
I think the IEBC portal is definitely updating that from
the
the
IEBC
various
portal
countries,
is updating that from the polls. So now what we're suggesting is that they should go to the IEBC portal, look at all the constituencies, all the polling stations that have been tallied, aggregate those back to the constituency for the presidential candidate, and then now compare those with what they have at the
I'm
stations.
not disagreeing with that.
Yes.
I'm not disagreeing with that. What I'm saying is, it is not solely IEBC. Because if I'm going to dispute, I'm a candidate.
Yes.
I have my agents there. In all honesty.
Well, they don't know where the numbers are coming from. This is the problem.
But you see.
But shouldn't they then provide the numbers that
you
they
see, here
have,
we
they can
are.
attest to?
You're the presiding officer.
Yes.
I'm the party agent.
Yes.
I'm there for my candidate. So you transmit a result. We count the votes.
Yeah.
We sign the form.
Yeah.
And I have my results. You're transmitting. But I should be transmitting to my party and saying, in this center, this is what has been counted for you. So that when you now go and say that I got 100 votes and my agent is telling me I got 1,000 votes, I'm able to say, according to the figures we're getting from our agents, this is not the thing. I agree. I want to agree with Gadara that what NASA is telling us is that they're relying solely on IBC for the results.
But here's how, how complicated it is. I just showed you the portal.
Yes.
You go by county, then you go by constituency, then you go by ward, okay? Then you go by polling station, then you go by stream. So this is how you have to aggregate the results going up until you get to the constituency level and say, here is where the results came from. So I can understand what Raila is saying is that right now, yes, numbers were transmitted, but as at the time that they're tallying to get those 4.8, you cannot assign one vote to which polling station. And therefore, they have no basis right now to dispute these things. So they're saying, unless you produce 34B,
But yet
it will be very difficult for us to understand because 34B is stuck at the constituency where it has not been sent to IEBC.
So what basis are they disputing?
They're disputing on the basis that they don't know where these results are coming from, whether they're from which constituency. So what we'd have seen, which would have helped, is here's constituency 1. President Uhuru, 34,000 votes. Constituency 2, Raila Odinga, 2 votes. Then you have a sense then to say, okay, so here's how it's checking out. But right now, you just have a number that then we'll have to constitute later.
How about then NASA then saying, because they had their party agents who were there to say that constituency 1, Raila got
according to our agents.
And therefore to say, and put all of that together and say, but our numbers and their numbers
are not
adding up.
So now that's where they need to go. That's where they need to go.
And that's what I'm saying. That is actually what I'm saying. Because you must dispute based on information or evidence that you have available to you.
But what is also feasible is that they didn't have agents in all the constituencies in the country.
Okay, that's
in all
true.
the polling
But then,
stations.
you know what? I know that
For logistical
they have a parallel
constituency.
tallying center. And for you
I
to...
don't know how they're going to do that.
or at least they said they were
They said they were going to have
said
it,
they
but
were going to
clearly
have
they don't
one.
have
I think
it.
so. What happened with in the news?
They don't have it,
You know,
do they still have that anymore? Is the
I don't know.
capacity,
I don't know, because there were also
limited?
conflicting reports.
Yes.
The thing is, I sympathize completely with the NASA flag bearer, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. And there are questions. We are all asking those questions. We want to also understand and interact with the information that we're getting. But I do think that we must be very careful. Even when disputing, we must dispute based on information that we have that is verifiable and can be checked against, the available evidence. So I would want them to actually produce the results, because when we look at, we've been having the discussion here. We look at the gap. The gap is constant. Okay, there's a constant gap.
It's 1.2 million.
It's a 1.2
It started from
constant
300,000,
gap.
went to 600,000.
And so
now it's stuck at
that is
1.2.
also a question that we're asking. Now, Is it possible? It is possible. I mean, coincidences happen, but when you have random numbers, you know, it's really not possible for a gap.
They've updated the
no
numbers like 3 times, and it's stuck
There's
at
no
1.2.
fluctuation in
The
gaps.
difference is held constant.
Yes. So those are some of the things. So I think it's very, very important that we really get a proper breakdown of the information, and really just call upon Kenyans to really just be patient.
Yeah.
I think IEBC have said that we will hear from them at dawn. You know, at daybreak, they will give us more information. Meanwhile, the portal continues to work.
Can we flip the conversation for a moment, because we seem to be putting the burden of proof, and well, rightfully so, on the person that's making a claim, but shouldn't an equal amount of responsibility be put on the IEBC to answer to some of these queries? I mean, granted, they had that press conference, you know, a little earlier and said we wait until the morning. You know, but if you were to put this on a scale, level of responsibility between the party and between IEBC, because IEBC is also supposed to make sure that they give the results in the manner that is prescribed in the law. Some would say this is typical, blame the victim.
Yeah, but look, if IEBC is supposed to declare the results as laid out by the law, then IEBC should have given us these numbers by constituencies, because that's where the presidential
but
vote
they haven't called
is
it
final.
Yet.
They haven't.
Isn't that what the law says, that they need to make the
It's
announcement
not necessarily
and call
calling,
a
but
constituency
just basically
for a
saying
presidential candidate?
that you know, let's just, you know, this is a pretty simple procedural thing. You just say constituency Starehe has declared 67%, and here is the outcome: 25,000 votes for X, 5,000 votes for Y. And you just go down that way.
But they still have time to do that.
They have time to do that. But you see, now the problem
they
is...
can do that in, what,
you see,
7 days?
They can do that in 7
problem
days.
with that
Can we
is
give them the
this.
benefit of the doubt?
But the problem is that you
problem
just
is-
put up these numbers.
Yes, you
now
put
it's
up
created
numbers.
all these things.
There's a huge gap.
Yeah.
If, for any reason, things begin to change, then people will begin to suspect things. So I think the burden really of being able to give us numbers that we can interact with and understand,
That's the
is
problem.
with IEBC.
All right.
Okay?
I want us to put up those numbers on our screens, you know, for a moment, so that our viewers can follow what the conversation we're having regarding the numbers. And then we will have Joy Brenda, who took a small break. I mean, we are here for
She's on
some long
sabbatical.
periods of time, because I really like to discuss the lacuna in the law, if there is one, but maybe to just have an understanding about which results we're seeing, which ones we should be seeing, what the law did say about that. So Joy Brenda would make her way here in just a moment as we take a look at these numbers here right now. 6 million, once again, 6,044,745. That's 55.27% of the votes, with Raila Odinga at 4.8 million, 43.93 of the votes. Let's just take a look at the numbers of the other candidates for a moment. Let's refresh our memory on that. In distant third is Joseph Nyaga, who's independent candidate with 26,000 votes. Mohamed Abdu Badida at 20,000 votes is from the Alliance for Real Change. And then we can take a look at the rest of the candidates as we take a look at those numbers. Okay, so this is what it looks like right now. And Joy Brenda is back with us. So Joy, let's understand these results we're receiving, because we know about the final announcement being for the presidential vote, at least at the constituency level. But then we're receiving results that are not from the constituency level, and I think we're having that discussion here. Maybe you could just help us clarify, you know, what the law says, and IEBC was talking about, you know, following what the Court of Appeal said on this matter as well.
The Court of Appeal made it not mandatory, but made it final that the results that come from the Constituency Tallying Center cannot be altered unless they're altered by a court case. Now, what the IEBC has chosen to do is, rather than wait for the constituency tallying to finish and then to broadcast, they have decided to do a running tally, so that as they receive the results, they broadcast them. As they receive the results, they broadcast them.
From the streams?
Yes, from the streams.
From the constituency.
Now, the problem with that is, as NASA correctly points out, the form that is supposed to accompany the results, that is the final one at the constituency constituency tallying center has not yet been filled because none of the constituencies has finished counting their votes 100%. So that form is true. It does not exist because they have not yet finished counting. So that is NASA's assertion, from what I heard, is that, because this does not exist, we don't want the results to be broadcast. Now, on the other hand, I can see where IEBC is coming from with deciding to do the running tally.
Yeah.
Because part of the accusation has always been they're not transparent, they're not transparent. So from what I heard Ezra Chiloba and Ms. Akombe saying is that, yes, we've had the complaints by the political parties, but we have made this decision to keep doing the running tally.
Yeah.
Now, in my opinion, NASA coming out at this point and saying, by the way, we're not happy the way this is going and we don't think that we're going to accept this result is a little bit premature because they have agents on the ground, and I would be expecting that they would also be doing their own parallel tally. I would hope in the very least they would produce something that shows us, look, as far as we are concerned so far, even with the incomplete, we should be at least at this particular point.
Okay.
Because if we do what they're proposing we do, that we keep quiet until we have 100% so that the forms and the results come at the same time, now we'll have the problem we've been having the whole night long. Too big a gap of no information, during which time anything can happen. So it's catch-22 for IEBC, but quite frankly, they ought to have been engaging on a more continuous basis. This see you in the morning flippancy is what I don't understand. Because right now, NASA are in a bind, and I'm sure where Jubilee are, I'm surprised they've not called a press conference for themselves as well, because even they too must be frustrated by this set of affairs. Because who wants to be sitting here as pageants are being cast, things are being rejected, and even you don't know what's being rejected.
Explain this to us, from a layman's perspective, which is to say we understand that the constituency is the final, when it comes to the presidential results.
Yes.
So what we're seeing, the results that are coming out now from the IEBC, is that illegal? Because that's what people don't understand with respect to these results that are coming out. Is it, the calling, the announcing and saying Starehe constituency, Kikuyu constituency, has it for Uhuru, Raila, Kaluyu or whatever? Just help us understand these results that we're receiving now and, where that falls in this sort of legal conundrum.
What these results are provisional results. None of these results are final because none of them have the complete tally from the constituency. Remember, Rosalind said, until all the votes are counted, we will not go ahead to declare.
So should they not have run these results? Because just before you came on, they were saying that, now there's these results that are coming in, and then when that final announcement is made from the constituency tallying center, which is what we're saying is final, then it sort of creates this confusion with the numbers. But what would the alternative be? To keep quiet until you've tallied all the votes at the constituency and then announce?
And that's why I'm saying it's catch-22 for the IEBC. Because if they decide to wait until they collect all the information and then announce, the gaps will be too long. They'll be too big of a gap. Now, what they're doing now is doing the running tally. Again, as NASA points out, this is unsupported. However, for me, in my opinion, I think NASA, in challenging, should have come out with, maybe they have different numbers. But if all they're unhappy with is that, these are not the final results, why are you announcing them? In my opinion, is crying foul too early. And that's, at this point in time in the game, it's still up in the air because we are looking at, about 70% of the votes counted so far? So there's still 30%
So this is premature? Okay.
So let's premature.
Yeah, before we carry on, I'd like us to listen to a rejoinder that was made by Raphael Tuju, the Secretary General of the Jubilee Party. So let's listen to what he had to say.
Is that the announcements should be after Form 34A scanned should have reached Nairobi, but they can't have their cake and eat it, or eat their cake and have it. They are the ones who said that the announcement by